Good evening, TheoTrade. This is Corey Rosenblumen. You're watching the Theo Nightly video for the 25th of June in 2020. And we had another movement up away from the lower value area extreme. That's our yellow line here, and we can also see it as a resistance point. That's about 31.40 in the S&P futures. The red line is our point of control, which you can think about that as the magnet or the median or the average on a standard bell curve or distribution table. Think of it like that. Not perfect, but close. And the yellow lines are just one standard deviation above or beneath the volume profile. And these little levels are just volume at prices turned over on its side. Not super dissimilar than any type of price distribution or maybe the probability of expiring, the cone. So what does this tell us in terms of short-term trades? There is a favorable short, favorable bear position for an intraday game plan that is a departure down from the yellow to the red, eventually down to the bottom of the yellow. And then if we're at the bottom or beneath the yellow, that gives us an advantage to the bulls or the buyers. We spent yesterday doing a major trend day to the downside, and that held support and stabilized at the 3040 level for the S&P futures. And today's session was a range day as well, but the bullish bounce or the dominant thesis for the short term did wind up playing out a little later, and that's at the end of the session here. That's on the news of the Volcker rule and some of the financial news, despite other relatively bearish headlines like the coronavirus and some other news reports, but we'll leave that aside. For the next session, for Friday and beyond, we're going to be watching these levels very closely, especially for the market pushing up away from 3040 with strong volume. The midpoint is once again 3100 for the SPY. We can take a look at it, and it's a little bit different grid on the chart. There it goes. So for the SPY, it's pushing up away from 304. It's a little bit different levels, but same type of logic. So that's the play for the market there. In the Nasdaq futures, we see a similar story except for horizontal support at this really 995 or 9900 level. In fact, for the past, we can take this little volatility box, push it forward, and that support shelf is just about 9900. Midpoint is about 9983, and top of it, 10,000, which is so strange to say still, 10,100. Traders of the Dow Mini Futures have a similar type of profile except for it's pushing back away from this 25,300. And that's off the value area extreme and midpoint to the top. And for Russell traders, kind of summing it up, same thing. These give advantages to intraday traders or swing traders, or just give you a logic that if you short it above the yellow, it's good to take your profits and close your positions into the yellow and think about establishing some type of bull bounce position. In today's session, we had the top leadership as financials, and they were dominant. We'll take a look at the financial index right now. So it as well, and again, the Volcker rule and how that plays into the economy, or just markets move on news. Doesn't take a lot to get a market rallying nowadays, it seems like, but that was the headline that they used, or at least was attributed to the end of day rally, financial news. But keep in mind, financials were strong all session. You can see that here in the XLF, which had a strong push off the open. And again, advantage bulls when the market is under the yellow standard deviation and distribution bell curve. And that led to a little long type of play and long type of setup, and the strength is really all day. Comments I was making in the chat room were trending stocks include Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, which is here, and I'm just showing the profile, how they play out, Morgan Stanley, and just really quickly, what I'm sorting is S&P 100 stocks in just by a top percent gain. That's off the open, really the close to the open. And things that are strong tend to get stronger. That's true in the swing perspective, but it's also true in the intraday perspective. So for one, Morgan Stanley traded all the way up to the target, which is from one yellow to the other, or from the lower support level VA extreme to the upper. And again, that's just one standard deviation, the yellow line. Otherwise, we have Bank of America that also pushed up advantage long. That looks a little bit like the S&P. Citigroup, not all stocks in the top 10 were financial companies, but most of them were. Citigroup achieved the target, and then JP Morgan. So that is off to the target as well. Others would include US Bancorp, AIG, and if you want to call PayPal is it a financial company? Is it a tech company? Is it a retail company? Nevertheless, it is a strong stock getting stronger. Speaking of strong stocks getting stronger, we'd like to look at our advancing names. So we'll go back to PayPal here just for a moment. We'll also see NVIDIA on the charts. And today's theme is just strength, rally, boost. How much higher can this go, right? Just letting the market play out within these levels. So PayPal is another strong stock getting stronger that is just off these all-time highs. NVIDIA is up there as well. We see that it continues to make new highs. And remember, I give scans a lot of times in these evening updates that show stocks making new 52-week highs. And the logic is that which is strong, once again, tends to get stronger, not weaker. So we would be advantage bulls on pullbacks or retracements. Don't have to be fancy with it. Trend line, moving average, or just establishing some type of call debit spread, or just buying calls or trading intraday to the upside. NVIDIA is one of those names. And again, so is PayPal. Off of those, we'll look quickly at Microsoft, because it's the leader of the market. And it's just off the highs, right? Tech was overbought, overextended. And we mentioned that on Tuesday, and then we had the pullback on Wednesday. So it's logical. Markets do not go straight up. They go up, they wiggle, they squiggle, they retrace. It is in those retracements or the bull flags or the pullbacks, whatever term, to the moving average or to the trend line. There's a good spot to put on risk. And again, that stop, if you use stops, if you use the option call spreads, we don't use stops at all. We have a defined risk and a defined reward at entry. And we just manage the trade. So we don't even worry about stops in those cases. But the concept is that which is strong does get stronger. So back to Amazon, it traded down away from the 2,800 level, which makes perfect sense. Very logical. And I'd like to show you the hourly chart, just the price itself, and the daily chart. So that maneuver down, or swing down, was about almost $100 in today's session, into Wednesday into Thursday. Well, that held support. Support held about 27.30. And again, that's a strong stock getting stronger. To our list of stocks that are making new all-time highs, or technically new 52-week highs, these names might not be familiar. McCormick, which is a little spice company, you probably use the spices, might not know the company does, but it's MKC is making new swing highs. ResMed, healthcare, and West Pharma, healthcare, Accenture, and then T-Mobile. We can take a look at these on the daily charts. I'll just take a look at MKC. You can see the other ones on your own time if you wish for other opportunities. But that which is strong does tend to get stronger. Took a little dip with the financial crisis or the COVID shutdown. Most stocks did. But McCormick recovered. And that is, again, a stock making new 52-week highs. Strategy, for me at least, and the recommendations, is to buy on pullbacks. Don't go crazy. Don't buy at all-time highs, but do so on pullbacks or retracements. Multiple strategies that we discuss here on TheoTrade, which includes the in-out spreads or vertical spreads into a trending stock in terms of entry and risk management. And pullbacks tend to take it up to the prior high, and that's just managing the risk there. Before we go, we'll take a look at crude and just see how it is trending up as well. Not quite as strong as the equity market, but still in an uptrend on the lower frames. And that's the pullback type of trades for crude oil. Gold caught a bid yesterday, but pulled back in today's session. And that makes sense. So it pushed away from this 1800 pivot, that is the prior high. So that target was achieved. Breakout target, we've recommended bullish type of maneuvers in gold or GLD, and that's taken us back to the high. Same strategy, that which is strong gets stronger. So try to engage markets on pullbacks, retracements, or flags to a support level. For gold, that's been just about 1700. Bonds attempted, well, they broke out. Didn't quite attempt. They did break out. That's a new swing high for the bond market, TLT. But today did not hold as a bullish uptrend day. And that's because the stock market gapped to the downside and recovered strong. Just on the opposite side, the bond market gapped to the upside and then recovered, well, turned down weak. And that's what we would see in terms of risk management. As always, be careful and safe. Back to the S&P here. Just keep in mind, we are playing up away from support. The uptrend continues, uptrend holds. It's baffling, it's confusing. I'm with you, 100% with you. But again, we are objectively above that 200-day simple moving average and above the 50-day moving average in Dawn's gravity spots, which the most recent one, had today been a down day, that would have been 2983. As long as this holds, the market is considered a little bit more bullish than not until and unless we start to break under Dawn's 2983. Now, as always, be careful and safe. This is Corey Rosenblum with tonight's Theo update for June 25th, 2020.